Okay, so obviously the point where this gets interesting, and really the whole point of STEM, is the linkage between services and the resources that are required to run the business. So it's the resources where we're going to get the most interesting, get the most interest. I'll create the first one. And as it says, a resource corresponds to some kind of equipment or provision with a certain capacity and associated cost. It's basically something you need to do the business, and it has a cost, and that is something you have to consider as part of your business plan. So the first one I'm going to look at is the optical interface. And there are, same as a service, there are some standard things on the bottom half of the menu, and then things specific to the resource at the top. There's the capacity and lifetime, there is the deployment, and then there is the cost. And we'll look at the capacity and lifetime first. And again, there are more things in this dialogue than you need most of the time. And once upon a time, we used to actually give a cut down version of this dialogue with fewer fields to make it easier to get going. But in the end, we decided that because you needed to have the bigger dialogue, actually any benefit you got from having a simple dialogue was completely lost by people getting confused between the simple version and the normal one. So nowadays, we just throw you straight into the normal one. And you just have to accept that there are plenty of things that STEM can do that you don't need most of the time. So the things that you do need to do pretty much always are, you will certainly need to do the capacity unit, just so the graphs are labeled correctly. And I'm going to say that you could actually say that the capacity unit was customers, because it is basically one per customer, but it's equally valid to say that the unit is ports, and it's one interface per port. We're not going to bother with any of these other engineering things. In fact, for a one per customer port, they're kind of irrelevant anyway. They would be more relevant for the chassis, but even there, we're not going to bother. The two most important things are the capacity and the lifetime. And the lifetime for the optical interface is 10 years. And basically, the capacity is the first order thing which controls how much you need for a given demand. With a capacity of one, you're going to get 1,000 customers, you'll have 1,000 ports. If the capacity was 100, you'd have 1,000 customers, you'd only have 100 of these. And so the capacity is the thing which tells you how much you need now, and the lifetime is the thing which says how long does it last before it needs to be replaced. And those are the two principal dimensions that govern procurement and replacement of assets in a network, period. Right. Everything else is detail. So it's capacity of one. I mean, this really couldn't be easier. And then I want to go to the costs dialog. You can either go back to the icon and do this, or right from here, there's a move menu, and you can also go straight to the cost dialog from this side.
Right.
Okay, I'll put it over here. So the costs we have for the optical interface it has a capital cost of 500, and you can enter the currency, which is actually a global currency. You can enter that anywhere. Oh, look, I've already done it. So I've already set it as USD. I can't remember when I did that. But you can enter it here. You can enter it for any resource. And basically, for reasons, because ultimately, STEM has to aggregate costs across all the resources, and it has to aggregate revenues across all the services. Ultimately, everything has to be in the same currency. If you want to work with different currencies, for example, if you want your model as a whole to be in local currency, but you want to specify some of the equipment costs in US dollars, then typically the way to do that is to use the user data function, which I wasn't planning to demo just now. Basically, every element has a spare form called user data, and if you were working in local currency here, you could, rather than putting your $500 here, you could put $500 in user one, and then write a formula here to do the currency conversion from US dollar exchange rate to local currency exchange rate. That's quite a common trick, but as I say, for now, it's just a distraction. So for now, I'm just going to assume everything we're talking is US dollars. So $500, and the other thing is that it's supposed to have a maintenance cost of 5% of the capex. So the maintenance cost, and that's assumed to be 5% per annum of the capex.
Yeah.
So my maintenance cost, you would expect to be able to enter a number here. Actually, I can also enter a formula. So if I click in the formula bar first, you'll find that you can actually point to other fields, just like you can in Excel. So I can pick up a reference to the capital cost and then multiplied by 0.05, and it then works it out. So it says 5% of 500 is $25 US. So if it was 600, it would recalculate.
Okay.
So it's a formula very much like Excel. So the word capital there is a reference to literally the capital cost field up here.
Right.